So we have seen predefined exception classes, and in this video we will see how we can create our own user-defined exception and how we can use them and handle the exceptions when they occur. So we will start by inheriting the exception class, and we will pass the message to be displayed when the exception occurs to the superclass constructor using the keyword super. Now in the driver class, we will use the try block, and in the catch block, we will handle that exception that we want. Now we will use throw new custom exception. Now we can accomplish this in the driver class, but I will go and create this in one of my classes, and in the driver class we will see how we can handle that. I'm not going to have the try, but I'm going to do the throw in one class and I will handle it in another class. So let's see how we can achieve that. So in Eclipse, I will start with creating a couple of classes. So I will create a class called employee, and this is going to be just a class without any main method. So I'll keep these classes as simple as possible to make the focus on the exception handling portion of it. Now with employee, I need to create my exception class. So I will call this over age exception. This is going to be my class. And then what I need to have as well is some kind of a demo class. So let me create a driver class. So driver, and this driver is going to have a main method. Now in my overage exception, I will need to extend the exception class. So extends exception, and now I will be able to throw exceptions. So what I will do is I will create a no argument constructor that is going to pass the exception message to my exception class over the superclass. So I will go and write public overage exception, no arguments, and what I will do here is super, and then I will pass my string in here to the constructor of the exception class. So I will say something like person is too old to be employed, and let's say exception, or better yet, let's just have another formatting. So this is just a formatting that you can write, but I'm trying to make it look a little bit better. So exception, the person is too old to be employed. Now this is the exception that is going to be thrown when I have that exception. Now let me go to my employee class. Again, I'm going to make it very simple. So I will have an integer called age. This is going to be the only attribute that I'll care about in this specific example, because I'm going to throw the exception based on that. And then I'll say public employee. So I'm just writing the constructor for my class, which is going to take an integer that is age, and then in here I will say if the age is larger than, let's say, 75, then I need to throw my exception. So throw new, and then overage exception. And I need to have the throws declaration. So without telling my Java class that my class will throw an exception, it will not allow me to do that. So let me go back and demonstrate. So I can just do this. Remember, we had an example or we just talked in the first video about having methods that throw an exception. Now, a constructor is nothing but a method that will allow you to instantiate objects. So I need to do throws, and then you can say overage exception or exception. Both should work. But to be more specific, you can say throws overage exception, because this is the only exception I'm going to throw in here. If I don't have the exception, then I will go ahead and create my object. This dot age is equal to age, and then this is going to be my constructor. Now, in my driver class, which is the demo, I need to handle the exception, and we will see how is that going to happen. So recall that when I created my employee class, I'm throwing the exception. I'm not handling the exception. So now when I come, remember when we talked about this, we said it is going to throw the exception and it's going to force whoever calls the method to handle the exception. Now let me show you what's going to happen when I try to create a new employee. So employee E is equal to new employee, and then let me put the age as 80. Now I have an error here, and the error here is because I don't have a try catch block. See, add throws or surround with try catch. So either throw it, let somebody handle it, or surround it with try catch. You can go ahead and type it right away, or you can just double click here and it's going to have try, and then it's going to catch, and then we'll throw the overage exception. So now let me just, when I throw it, I will say e dot or let's just print it out. System.out.print line it's not accepting my shortcut. Here we go. E dot toString to give me the message that I'm trying to have in here. So let's try to run this. Overage exception, the person is too old to be employed. So I throw my exception, and here is the message that I have. Now I have the exception word twice because I included this in my formatting, and I'm printing it as a toString. Now again, you can do anything in here. You don't have to necessarily print the message that you want, that you have in the exception. You can print anything, literally anything. Now what's going to happen if I don't have the exception? So remember we said it's 75. So if I say 25. See, I don't have any problem. I'm not showing anything because I'm not printing anything in, except if I have the exception. But since I'm not showing anything down here in the console, that means this code went through without any exception, without any problem. And this is how you create your custom exceptions or user-defined exceptions. A quick recap on that: you will have a class that is going to extend the exception, and then you will define your exception. You have two ways to do it. Either you go in your other class, which I'm doing here, and throw the exception right here, or what you can do actually is you can throw the exception right away here in your try catch using the general syntax that we talked about here. So in the try block, you put throw new custom exception. So we will put throw new overage exception in our try block, and then we will handle it in our class. And this is how you create a custom user-defined exception classes.